how does one not only get away with murder, but become the person he murdered? Better than food, man. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I'm your host, Clifford Lee Sargent. Great to see you as always. Hope you're doing well. Get that coffee. Delicious. Got something good for you today. Today I would like to discuss Patricia Highsmith's masterpiece, The Talented Mr. Ripley, published in 1955. Great cover on that one. Well, I've already sort of given it away as to what my opinion of the book is. No, I loved it. I think this is one of the best things I've read all year. It's actually one of the best things I've ever read. And I'm not going to just hold that back. My friend Seneca kindly sent me the collection of Highsmith's short stories, which I haven't got to yet. But I really appreciate that. Thank you, man. But this one I had heard was great, and so I picked it up a little while ago. And I can confirm, great is a severe understatement. This is one of the best books I've ever read in my life. My friend Alice also sent me this illustration she did of Highsmith, which is pretty awesome. Thanks a bunch, Alice. I really love that. Hope you and Tim are doing well. I confess I don't like reading long books. I don't. I'm not patient. I'm not a patient person. I never have been. I usually get tired of the story and characters. They easily annoy me, and no matter how good the writing is, I'm never as impressed with a long book as I am with a short one, save for a few. You know, Gravity's Rainbow, of course. That's one of the many reasons that I feel that Borges was an absolute genius, because he only wrote short stories. But, there are some books, very, very few, but there are some books that I do not want to end. But very, very, very few in my case. But this, as far as I can remember, is number one. I did not want to stop spending time with the utter sociopath Tom Ripley, because he is far better company than 99.9% of people. It's astounding. There are spoilers all over in here, so beware. If you want the pure experience, which I highly recommend, I suggest you just press pause, read it, and come back. Or at least, start reading it. Get into the first 50 pages or so. Maybe get to the major inciting incident that causes Tom to go on his whole adventure. But oh my God, Patricia Highsmith gets it right. She gets it totally right. Atmosphere, tempo, complexity, mystery, simplicity, good taste, convincing characters, and a totally contrarian attitude beneath it all. Immaculate. I love her. I love her writing. I think she's phenomenal. If you're enjoying this, if you would hit the like button, it really helps the channel and helps with the algorithm stuff and puts this video out to people who would enjoy it, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You could call this crime writing for sure, but I just prefer to call it great literature. It's crime writing in the sense that Georges Simenon is a crime writing. Act of Passion is the one I'm thinking of here because that takes place on the French Riviera as well. It's approximately the same location as part of The Talented Mr. Ripley, same place, the Nice, Cannes area. Beautiful area, if you've never been to it. And I just read Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, and that takes place kind of there. That's a portion of the book. Yeah, there's something about that area of the world that is inspiring to those who would commit murder. No. Venice too. This one takes place in Venice for much of the story. And, I just read Murder Most Serene by Gabrielle Wittkop that took place in Venice, although granted that was way, way back at the end of the Most Serene Republic when Napoleon was on the way. So anyways, Patricia Highsmith was born in and grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. Didn't seem to have much in common with America. She later left America for France and Switzerland. I would very much like to do the same. At 28, she wrote Strangers on a Train, which became the famous Hitchcock film. No big deal or anything. But she didn't have as much success in the States as she did in Europe, which is maybe unsurprising. But still, there is something both distinctly European and American about Highsmith's novels. But the kind of like continental, travel atmosphere. It's very much a travel novel, but and that's one of the most fabulous things about it. It's like the perfect travel novel if you're going to France, that area of France or Italy. If you are, I would highly suggest you pick this up for your trip. It's so. I mean, if you're a travel junkie like myself, you just start like jonesing, like just start having like just reading the book, It's the next best thing to actually going on the trip. It's wonderful. And if you're planning on traveling around the world, I suggest you do it in style and with a sense of security, which is why I would highly suggest you check out the sponsor of today's video, the Ridge Wallet. They make traveling a lot easier. It just simplifies your life. Very easy to use and stylish, holds up to 12 cards plus room for cash on the back. Frees up space. They are meant to go into your front pocket, not your back pocket, so you just slip it into your coat pocket there, good to go. Please do not sit on them, it will not go well, thank you. This is a new Forged Pacific model. I just love that color, it kind of reminded me of the ocean. It's made with RFID blocking technology that protects you from digital pickpocketers. And crime is getting, smarter these days. So any additional security that you can get helps, right? I mean, honestly, it's crazy out there. The durable material means that each wallet comes with a lifetime warranty. You could buy this one wallet and carry it for life. In fact, the Rich team is so confident you'll like it, they'll let you test drive it for 45 days. If you don't love it, you can send it back for a full refund, so no worries. It's a great way to simplify your life. And if you're planning on writing a travel memoir, you're probably gonna need a sturdy pen, like this Bolt Action Titanium one from Ridge. Very, very sturdy pen. It's got this thing that is like a rifle there. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And if none of this has convinced you yet, check out their 40,000 5-star reviews. 40,000. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/betterthanfood and using the discount code betterthanfood. The link is below. Thank you so much. And there's sort of like a Better Than Food travel thing I'm trying to work out. I might drop the info about that pretty soon. We're trying to organize some stuff to have a whole bunch of us go on a trip together somewhere in Europe and or Mexico City or something, meet up and hang out and drink and go cavorting all around town. Anyways, we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you posted on that. This had 2 film adaptations, one in 1960 with Alain Delon, great actor. Purple Noon, haven't seen it. And of course, we've probably all heard of the more recent one with Matt Damon and Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow in the mid-90s, which was the same name as the novel, The Talented Mr. Ripley. I've seen neither. I will watch Purple Noon first. If you never saw The Samurai with Alain Delon, that's definitely one to check out. He's a great actor. So yeah, this is the story of Tom Ripley, a 20-something kind of nobody in New York, who is always on the run because he's always up to no good. And that's where we first find him. We find him trying to elude Herbert Greenleaf, the father of a fellow around Tom's age, Dickie Greenleaf. In the beginning of the book, Tom's running from bar to bar because he thinks that Greenleaf Sr. is a cop out to get him because of these IRS scams that Tom has been pulling lately, where he's been posing as the IRS, asking people for money and asking them to send checks to him, which he never cashes. He's just doing it like recreationally, just to kind of like to hone his skills. Basically, it's kind of innocent, but not really, because it's actually like a really super cruel thing to do, and he actually gets, he derives pleasure from doing it. But yeah, he doesn't cash the checks. He just enjoys the practice, like he's preparing for something. And it turns out he is. It's kind of how these things go, right? You just need more and more and more and more. So Greenleaf Sr. finally finds him in this bar, and he introduces himself because he believes Tom to be an acquaintance of his son Dickie, who has left New York and is spending time in Italy living a very different lifestyle, and seems to prefer it and doesn't want to come back, even though Dickie's mother, because his mother, Greenleaf Sr.'s wife, is not well, she's ill, and it appears that it may get worse. So his father wants to bring him back, and also it seems like there's probably something with him wanting to keep tabs on his son and have him enter the family business or something. I don't know. But Dickie, meanwhile, is in Italy painting badly, but taking it seriously nonetheless, and kind of just, he's got money. He's just fucking off, right? So he offers Tom money to travel to Italy, find his son, and try to convince him to come back. So things being what they are for Tom in New York, he accepts enthusiastically. So Tom suddenly finds himself on an ocean liner bound for Italy, and he meets Dickie and his love interest Marge in the charming town of Mongibello. And he starts to fall in love with Dickie Greenleaf, kind of in a romantic way, but also in kind of a brotherly way, and in an envious way, in a jealous way. See, my assumption before reading the book was that the issue was going to be Marge, that Tom would go for Marge and want Dickie's life because of her, and he'd want Dickie out of the way in order to be with her. But no, not at all. In fact, the exact opposite. Like, Tom can't stand Marge, and the feeling is mutual. Tom just wants Dickie, and more than Dickie, it's Tom. Well, yeah, but Tom wants Dickie's life. He wants to become Dickie Greenleaf. It's kind of there is sort of a romantic attraction underlying all of it, but there's something deeper than that. Tom is a master of impersonations. He even entertains Dickie with some. He's an actor, right? He wants to become Dickie Greenleaf, and here's the big spoiler. He does. Tom murders Dickie Greenleaf and drowns him. And then once more, he's on the run, but this time the game is extremely ambitious. How does one not only get away with murder, but become the person he murdered? And he does. He does. Flawlessly almost. And I don't think there's a finer execution of plot that I've come across in literature. It's absolutely astounding how Patricia Highsmith has Tom carry it out. And the entire time, we want him to win. She reminds me a little of Nabokov stylistically, in the sense that she has a strong sense of style and class. I don't think it should be any surprise that both of these authors ended up in Switzerland. I like to as well. There's a reassuring warmth that emanates from the text of a great writer when you start a book like this. Beneath the words and the pages, you can almost feel it coming up. Like you know you're in good hands right from the get-go. The first few pages, you already know. You can feel the person behind the book as soon as it begins, just like the director of a film. Sometimes one's impression is confused or mistaken, but in my experience, more often than not, the gut reaction is true. Your first impression is often the most accurate. And my first impression of Highsmith is one of supreme admiration. I was completely taken with Ripley's charm, hook, line, and sinker. I just ate that shit up. And it's the same story with many, like everybody who reads the book apparently. I believe it's widely accepted that Tom Ripley is a very likable character. And for this reason, fascinating, because I believe even Highsmith herself has agreed that he is a psychopath. Pick this one up before American Psycho. Honestly, it's a far greater novel. And it taps into some very interesting, complicated human desires. There's a great moment when he has to switch back into the role of Tom from impersonating Dickie, and you realize the entire book is all about a person's desire to escape themselves, you know? And I thought this was great. He went on packing. This was the end of Dickie Greenleaf. He knew. He hated becoming Thomas Ripley again, hated being nobody, hated putting on his old set of habits again, and feeling that people looked down on him and were bored with him unless he put on an act for them like a clown, feeling incompetent and incapable of doing anything with himself except entertaining people for minutes at a time. He hated going back to himself as he would have hated putting on a shabby suit of clothes, a grease-spotted, unpressed suit of clothes that had not been very good, even when it was new. Yeah, I think we can all relate to that on some level at various points in our lives where we wish we were somebody else, where we wish we were wildly different. Not all of us, and not for our whole lives, but certainly that's a very relatable feeling. And the question is, what if you had the ambition and the talent and the drive to completely alter yourself, to completely assimilate the life of another person, and to become them? It's not impossible. It's a travel novel of the finest variety. In the 1950s, 50s New York, 50s travel by ocean liner to Europe, 50s small town Italy, extremely romantic, when things are still rough around the edges, post-war and filled with possibilities, and this sultry, mysterious darkness, when the world seemed disillusioned and yet primed for a new era, new beginnings, and not so bored with itself, knowledgeable of everything, fatigued by everything, and riddled with the anxiety of constant hypercommunication and surveillance and interconnection. You're never alone in the modern world. You're never alone. There's always somebody or something fucking watching you. When one could simply be anyone they wanted to be in a new land. When you could lie to people convincingly. You could tell them some story about your life or impersonate some long dead character. When one didn't have to answer their phone. When one could simply disappear. There's a great film called The Passenger with Jack Nicholson, directed by the Italian director Michelangelo Antonioni, which is also very good. It's a similar story about a man who usurps the identity of a dead man. It's interesting, you know, because before Tom murders Dickie, you know, there was a falling out because Marge suspected them of having some kind of thing for each other, and this made Dickie insecure. And so he starts kind of being mean to Tom, trying to kind of like push him out of the picture and get rid of him. And so Tom is still in love with Dickie, but he's starting to feel like he's being broken up with, basically, being left behind. And Dickie was a kind of spoiled man, inept painter, possibly falling in love with Tom, but then out of peer pressure from Marge, who he didn't even love anyway, treated him like a threat and rather callously. Dickie was a very regular, mediocre man from wealthy parents in New York, who think they can just buy people to get them to do what they want. And then there's Tom Ripley, kind of the underdog. No real support system back home. Confused, vulnerable, lonely Tom Ripley, who has a knack for fast, agile thinking and impersonation, but somebody who would never be able to travel to Europe. He just doesn't have that kind of money. Or soak up and appreciate with immense enthusiasm all the sights that Dickie would be yawning at. And so Tom kills Dickie and becomes him. And then it basically turns into the pleasant travel adventures of Dickie Greenleaf, you know, as played by Tom Ripley, and probably better than Dickie himself. One thing that struck me that was so revealing and interesting about life, and while this is fiction, is absolutely believable, when someone has died, we don't really suffer until we know about it, right? And for better or worse, you know, this kind of attachment to people throughout our lives leads to a kind of self-destructive behavior. Dickie's mother, for example, who is already sickly and probably on the verge of some worse illness, throughout the months following Dickie's murder, is fine because she doesn't know, and she never finds out, that her son was beaten in the head with a paddle and chucked over the side of a small Italian boat to the bottom of the Mediterranean. But he has. He's been viciously murdered. Yet the attachment remains because she doesn't know he's dead. And the pain hasn't come yet so hard because the thread hasn't broken. The lie is still upheld, but it's a lie. All relationships like these are stories we tell ourselves, and Tom is no different. He's just figured this out and wielded the truth to his own liking in order to get what he wants, in order to get what he desires. But oddly, and surprisingly, not without empathy. It's riveting because he operates immorally with a strong moral compass. It's very strange. He is an absolute perfect contradiction. He's an excellent character. And there are several more books featuring Ripley after this one, apparently. I mean, he's also bumbling and embarrassed and scared and guilt-ridden occasionally, but not cripplingly so. And perhaps most disturbingly above all, always capable of coming back and putting on the charm. He is a true blue sociopath of the finest variety, and one of the greatest characters I've come across, ever, I think. And you know what? In spite of his misdeeds, we fucking love him. Because, though he's not strong, and he's not brilliant, he's got balls of steel. And he is going to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. And even though he may go too far sometimes, there's always a sense of fairness in Tom's game. And while it gets pretty hairy at certain points, we know he can get away with it. All our bets are on Tom Ripley. Better than food. Absolutely. Wonderful. So what did I dislike about it? That it wasn't longer. I mean, that's it. I loved it. I thought it was excellent. Wasn't too short, wasn't too long. I thought it was terrific. I suppose the ending was a little... We could have... I suppose he could have been in hotter water. So who should read it? I think anybody who enjoys Nabokov, Georges Simenon, mysteries that take place in Europe, the whole classy characters committing crimes and consuming cocktails, any of that stuff. Check it out. Right up your alley. And all of these extravagantly beautiful European backgrounds make for the best novels. The juxtaposition of cold-blooded murder with beautiful environments is just irresistible in a good mystery. This is a world of newspapers, typewriters, lots of alcohol, pre-globalist European cities, art, culture, fancy cigarettes, beautifully made clothing and goods, and the constant flow of smart conversation and stiff drinks. It's a world that was harder in some ways, it seems, but easier in others, and is, in my opinion, to be sorely missed. But yeah, Tom Ripley is incredible. He is a total individual, and so is his creator, Patricia Highsmith. Yeah. And I'll just leave it at that. I'll speak more about her biography in more reviews I do of her. But this book is phenomenal. It's better than the vast majority of most things written. I'd say if you enjoyed Woody Allen's Match Point and the character played by Jonathan Rhys Meyers, definitely get this one. Remarkably brilliant and just super refreshing to read. Really, really inspiring as to like the possibilities of what you can do with a book. I loved it. Coffee time. Thank you very much to all the patrons. Hope you're doing well, especially in this time. I know it's absolutely insane out there, and I really appreciate you staying on board and helping keep this whole project going. It really means a lot. I know it's crazy out there. I know. Inflation, the war, and now we're worried about getting bitch slapped by Will Smith. I know, it's bad. So a sincere thank you to all the patrons, and best of luck. Okay, here we go. Jake M. Thank you very much, Jake. Really appreciate it. You're going to receive the talented Mr. Ripley, plus a bag of delicious coffee. And I hope you love both. Thanks so much. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the thumbs up if you enjoy this. And always remember, bring a book wherever you go. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Have a great night. Talk to you soon. Ciao.